You're listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast, a Texas Tech athletics podcast where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Just enjoying the 2-0 vibes in the last two conference games. How are you?
I thought you were going to talk about the 2-0 vibes that the Texas Rangers are enjoying in the ALDS.
The currently undefeated Texas Rangers in the
2023 playoffs. They are 4-0, looking to be 5-0 tonight. They have a 7-1 lead, bottom of the eighth, one out. Jonah Heim very nearly hit himself a home run to extend the lead. At the wall. So
this is officially when I start paying attention to Rangers baseball. So it's been kind of a drought for me for a little bit.
Well, it's been a drought because Bally sucks, and we've only been able to watch the past 4 games because they've been on Fox.
I know I didn't get to see the Spurs debut last night. Of course they lost, but Wemby had a pretty good little showing there. Thanks, Bally, but it's preseason, so it's preseason. Why am I worried about watching preseason basketball? This is different. This is new to me.
I had somebody today ask me, "Hey, when is baseball starting?" I was like, "It's still going." They're like, "No, I know, but like in the spring, when does it start?" I was like, "Well, college starts middle to end-ish of February. Majors will start end of March, beginning of April, and we'll go until the middle end of October." So, they're like, "'Cause so many games," is like, "It's fantastic." I know.
Are you sure this wasn't me you were talking to?
No, I was talking to this girl I work with.
Oh, okay.
Today we were volunteering at United We Read. We're putting together little bags for the students, which is great. If you're in the Lubbock area, still volunteer with United Way. If that's something that floats your boat. No free ads, except for charitable causes.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think we would expect compensation from the United Way.
Of the 23 community organizations they support, 23 Personnel is not one of them. But that's okay. It does align. They do support 23, but to add us would be 24. Then it wouldn't really work.
We should really get into that Dr. Pepper money too, because they have 23 flavors.
Mm-hmm. If only we knew somebody that worked at a Keurig. Which is interesting that they are the. Anyways, we are going to put a quick wrap on Baylor. There's really not much else to say besides everything you did basically worked out. I don't want to nitpick the defense when you win by 25 points. And then we'll turn and focus on Kansas State this weekend. Already fielding questions for Wildcats, where they need to hit up once they hit Lubbock. I'll tell you what I told them. You let me know, Michael, if you disagree. Then we'll, of course, look around the rest of the Big 12 as we do. There may be even a little bit of basketball talk today. We'll see. We'll see how much the Rangers will let us focus on that because, like I said, currently on one of my device screens over here, I've got 3 going right now. Bottom of the 8th still. So,
yeah, I just realized I don't have it on. So what am I doing? What am I even doing?
What are you doing? Well, probably saving some of your streaming bandwidth. I feel like I'm struggling a little bit over here.
Well, I can get this over the air, so that's where I'm headed.
I'm in my extremely overpriced Hulu Live package right now.
Oh, hey, price is going up this month.
Hold
on to your butts.
That and ESPN and Disney Plus.
We actually dropped...
and our Verizon phone plan went up too. It's like, great. This is fantastic. Every place that you could. Oh, also Geico.
Oh yeah.
Every little place that could needle me for an extra $10-15 a month.
Our home
Although
and
Geico,
our home and car insurance just skyrocketed this year. It was insane.
I've been with Geico, I can't remember how many years, so many. But I did the math and I was griping at one of the agents, like, well, inflation. I was like, inflation, my ass. I told like,
It's not 35% inflation,
That's-
bucko.
like 40%. No,
Yeah.
no.
Oh, that's how
Not
much.
on my premiums.
You know, that's crazy. That's exactly what my homeowners and auto insurance went up. It was like 35 to 40%. I got letters from my mortgage people like, "Hey, you've got to figure out this whole escrow situation, man. That was a big
I know.
chunk. We were not expecting this."
We did that
Sorry.
too. And of course we're just in the first year where it's adjusting with like our first year of payments, the land valuation was just for the land and not for the
Oh,
land and
yeah.
house.
Yeah.
So then once that gets added on, our taxes will go up, and then our escrow is going to be short. I was trying to figure it out. I was like, well, I lump sum paid the difference up front to keep my payment the way it was. And then my payment still went up. I was like, what are you guys doing? I already paid you. Knock it off. Anyways,
Sorry,
that's
I derailed
enough.
this. We should probably talk about football or something.
Oh, we should. Get down. Not in the glove. Dang it. All right. Going to the ninth. Let's talk about Baylor. Let's talk about how Texas Tech committed to a game plan. Michael had some, as Kyle said, grown man drives at pivotal points in the game, and absolutely just controlled the game.
Yeah.
It started with the very first drive of the game. Let's be honest. When Texas Tech came out with the ball, I don't love taking the ball first, but it is what it is.
Well, I think it was, what was it? I think Baylor won the toss, if I remember right. But
No,
they did,
and
yeah, I don't know. Taking it first on the road kind of makes sense, but yeah, that's backfired us on us so many times.
yeah. But the drive, I just want to read you the plays. I don't know if you hear the baby. She's losing her mind back there, but she's going to be all right. Samantha's got her. Just disregard the screaming baby in the background. Brooks handoff, 5 yards. Brooks handoff, 18 yards. Brooks handoff, 2 yards. Baron Morton throws to Brooks for 4 yards. Baron Morton throw to Miles Price. Brooks run for 16 yards. Brooks run for 5 yards. He gets a break. Valdez run for 6 yards. Valdez run for 3 yards. Incomplete pass, touchdown.
Yeah, that was 11 plays, 75 yards, 5 minutes, 14 seconds of just
And the only
grown man football.
The only air quotes negative play was an incomplete pass.
Right.
The snap before the touchdown.
That was just to throw him off.
Yeah, you were just like, oh, well, now that you've seen us throw to our fourth string tight end, we're going to go ahead and stop jacking around, throw to our outside receiver. Not that I'm not saying that because York's bad. He had the first touchdown of the season. He's huge. He's flashing, especially for a young guy in this new role, or not new role, but in the role of tight end in this offense. Then to respond, Baylor goes pass. So their first play, Blake Shapen pass, -2 yards. Then they get a first down. On the next play, they picked up 13. Another first down pass for 14 yards. Then Richard Reese run for 1 yard. Richard Reese run for 2 yards. Shapen pass for 6. 4th and 1. They throw incomplete. Texas Tech takes over.
That's basically, both of those drives summed up the game. The rest of the game was an extended version of both of those drives.
Yep. Baylor was able to, they weren't able to string together plays into drives. they scored on a 71-yard play because Monterey Baldwin is a freak athlete, and there was some kind of mishap on defensive coverage, and then Demerson Rabbit undercut the route just a little too much on the back end. Again, like I'm not faulting anybody here. It happens. But yeah, essentially, Baylor can't put together drives. They are 1 of 6 on 4th down. Texas Tech responds in meaningful situations with grown-ass football, complimentary football, and just salts the game away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from the opening kick, it was bully ball. You did whatever the heck you wanted on the ground, which is demoralizing. Teams have done that to Tech for many years, and you're just like, can't stop it. You didn't do it to the extent that Arkansas did it to you in, was it 2014? But it was the same concept, right? Like, we knew Alex Collins was getting the ball. We knew it. Everybody freaking knew it. It did not stop Brett Bielema from calling that same play. It did not slow him down at all. And he finished with what, like 200 something yards? Anyways, that same kind of mentality.
Teams doing that to us too. Just that we're just going to hand it off because we know you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Rangers win.
Hey man, I'm not there yet. Now it's 2 outs, 0-2. Leclerc is putting up a show. Westberg, let's go, brother.
It's about to be 3 outs, my friend.
Thanks for ruining it.
27 outs. Hashtag.
Hulu's short, not short. It's behind for me these days. Like, my stream is always just seems to be slower. Oh, 98 miles per hour down the pipe, and he misses.
The whiff.
Going to the ALCS. Hell yeah.
Who are they going to play? Or has that been determined yet?
It has not been determined. They have to face the winner of the Astros Twins series. Astros took a 2-1 lead today.
Jerks.
Same best of 5. So I would assume the Astros. I mean, I'd be okay if the Twins want to stretch it out, take all 5 games to do it.
This is how big a baseball fan I am. So is the next series, is it still 5 games or is it 7?
You know what? I don't know.
I thought you would know.
It's 7.
Okay.
It's 2-3-2. So you get 2 home. So the higher seed will get 2 home games. Then the lower seed gets 3 home games, and then back to the original site host for the last 2.
Okay. I think that's how they do NBA playoffs until the conference finals. I think they, or was it the actual finals? Because then they switched to 2-2-1-1-1 at some point. So yeah, my baseball series home and away knowledge is thanks to being an NBA fan in the early 2000s, late 90s. Very helpful right now.
Yeah. All right. So we talked it, and the instant reaction. Taj Brooks, it's a grown man. Because of his success in early downs, you reduced your third down distance, your average distance to go on third down, to just 5.3 yards. You were 10 of 18 on third downs, 1 of 2 on fourth downs, where Baylor was something like 3 of 18 and 1 for 6 on fourth down. Sorry, they were 4 of 15. It's there in the notes, right in front of me. And then 1 of 6 on fourth down. And then we talked about it. Allowed only 0.6 yards per rush. That is including the sacks, but
yeah, that's kind of a cherry stat. I know that includes every single time a ball carrier, carried the ball.
But I think Baylor had like a net rush of 42 yards.
sounds reasonable.
And I mean, it was probably close to 2 or just under 2 yards per rushing attempt if you take out the sacks. Anyways, huge. I predicted a 31-24 victory. I was closest of the two of us because Michael predicted Baylor. Thanks, Pink Raider. Just kidding, man. Setting us up to finish up, we are 2-1 in conference play. Don't forget that we have a winning record in conference play, despite the 500 overall record. But you need to go 500 over the rest of the remaining 6 games. So halfway through the season, you're 3-3. You need to go 3-3 to hit 6-6. I did find the spot where the remaining schedule is ranked most difficult to least difficult. Teams did shift a little bit. So your next easiest game as of today will be, you have a 75% chance to win this game, game 11, hosting UCF. Boy, has that team fallen. Now, that may take into consideration if you are facing a Jimmy McLean-led UCF and not a John Reese Plumlee-led UCF. I still haven't paid enough attention to UCF to see if and when he's coming back. But then BYU, TCU, Kansas State. But even though Kansas State is your second toughest game left, right now it is a still positive, at least on this website, percentage for Texas Tech to win this one, 54.5%. The only game where you have a lower one is obviously Texas, and that's 13%. So quite a bit, big drop off there. Kansas State, 54.5%. Kansas, 56.1%. And the jump, TCU, 62.9%. BYU, 63.9%. And then UCF, 75.6%. So, yeah, opportunity starts with this weekend, Michael.
It does.
You're hosting the Kansas State Wildcats. They are 24th in the S&P Plus. Texas Tech has clawed all the way back up to 26th. You jumped another 6 spots this week following your victory this weekend. Not unexpected because you are moving up. Still the best 3-loss team in the country. The next closest is TCU at 33rd and UCF at 34th. The game this weekend is on FS1, so if you want to see it, you probably need to be in the stadium.
I think 4 out of the 5 Big 12 games this weekend are on FS1, including the Thursday night game. It's kind of weird.
That sucks.
Yeah.
6 p.m. though. You got a night kick. I did catch a little bit of Kansas State's press conference, their weekly press conference. They hold them on Tuesdays, whereas Texas Tech does them on Monday. Kleiman was asked about the environment. He's like, yeah, it's gonna be another night game. They're having a blackout or something. So it's gonna be, they're gonna have to get ready for that kind of environment. I was listening to one of the Bosco's Boys episodes. He does a daily show. So last night's episode was a Q&A session. They were talking about Kansas State struggling on the road. Now, granted, they were coming off of a big loss at Stillwater, and Kleiman and Kansas State have been notoriously bad at games after bye weeks. They're 1-4. I heard that today in games following a bye week. They get an extra day between that game and this one. So it's not a true bye week because they aren't off for the week, but you had a little extra time. Whatever they're doing hasn't really been working with extra time. He was asked, if you watch any of the game that they had against Oklahoma State, Will Howard threw 3 interceptions, Michael, and they were bad. They were bad interceptions. It wasn't like it was a 50-50 ball or whatever. I joked in the Discord as the game was going, I was like, he had money on Oklahoma State or something with how bad those throws were. And then, Kleiman said Will Howard was being overly aggressive. And then he's got to be more He's got to protect the ball better, make better decisions. Scott from Bosco's Boys basically said the same thing. Like, everybody loves and applauds him, Will Howard, when he's aggressive and the play works out. But when it doesn't, it backfires stupendously with all these interceptions. And he's thrown one in each of the last few weeks.
Yeah, he's
They
thrown
weren't-
he's thrown at least one every game. He's got 7 on the year, but 3 of them came last week.
It's
Then
not
he
good,
had,
Bob.
yeah, so he had 1 in each game before that. And I did go back, not to be throwing stones in a glass house, all that kind of stuff. So Shuck had 4, Morton has 2 so far. So Tech has 6, but we don't have one quarterback with 7.
No. And they came early.
Yeah. And, Kleiman went on to talk about, you mentioned the atmosphere in Lubbock. That was kind of in reference to, he thought some of the guys weren't ready for the atmosphere in Stillwater. So those of you listening, if you're coming to Lubbock, or if you're going to be in the Jones on Saturday night, put on a show. But who knows?
And
they probably
and wear
have
black.
figured it all out. Yeah. I wanted to go a little bit into that Oklahoma State game last week because I feel like
Okay.
Kansas State has got to be absolutely kicking themselves, and I think they're right. I think they lost the game. I don't think Oklahoma State won it. They just lost. Oklahoma State scored 1 touchdown on offense, and it was on their opening drive. So they were held scoreless. They were held out of the end zone the entire rest of the game. The rest of their 29 points came from a pick 6, which of course is awful. And the timing of it was terrible. It was right before halftime with like 40 seconds left. Howard threw a pick 6. And then the rest of them were field goals. They had a kicker kick. He attempted 6, but one of them was blocked. So Kansas State blocked a field goal. We've got to kind of keep an eye on that. But, the timing of Howard's interceptions were just killer. I think his second one wasn't that bad, but the pick 6 right before half was awful. Then they come out of halftime. They're driving in the red zone. It's 4th, which is a pretty big play. I mean, it's 4th and 8, and it's on Oklahoma State's 13. So it's not 4th and goal or anything. They've got to get to the 5-yard line or whatever. High snap on 4th and 8, and it goes back to like the 35. Turnover on downs. Just to have that kind of play by your defense, even on the 3rd interception on Kansas State's second to last drive. Howard threw the interception. There's 3:24 remaining, and you think, gosh, this is probably church. Well, no, because the Kansas State defense stepped up, forced a 3-and-out. Kansas State got the ball back, but then on 4th and 10, when they were unable to move the ball at all on that last drive, pass was batted down at the line of scrimmage. I mean, just so many bad things that if I were watching that as a Kansas State fan, we would have been extremely frustrated. There would probably would have been a lot of fire somebody tweets from the fan base. There would have been our instant reaction would have been extremely explicit. Kansas State lost this game, so this worries me a little bit coming into this week, knowing that that's what happened. They tackled poorly. I remember one play in particular, Oklahoma State. They had a playmaker. 5 guys missed him. There were 5 tackles that got missed, and he got down the field at least 50-something yards. So it worries me some, but it's also, well, maybe this is kind of showing some of what they, are capable of on the bad side of things.
I tend to think that Kansas State's not as bad as you saw this weekend.
Oh gosh,
obviously
that's where I'm at too.
the 3 turnovers aren't going to help. The 3 interceptions. And maybe Oklahoma State is improving and starting to figure things out. Don't know, don't care, don't have to play them.
Nope.
But Kansas State, like it looked bad losing to Oklahoma State, and I know that they're kicking themselves. They're probably not as bad as you would think had the game gone otherwise. But offensively, still impressive. The top 20 S&P Plus offense, number 17. The Tech defense rose in 14 spots after last week, went from 49th to 35th. They're closing in. They're led on offense, obviously, by Will Howard, the senior, big dude, 6'5", 240, completing 62% of his passes, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That number jumped up, like we said last week. When he runs, he's kept the ball 38 times for 263 more yards, and has 6 rushing touchdowns. He leads the team in rushing touchdowns, so he has 15 total. When they run the ball, not with Howard, they're looking at DJ Giddens, who's been really good, really good. 6'1", 212. He's a big dude. 82 carries, 499 yards. That is 6.0 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. You know who else carries the ball 6.0 yards per carry in this game, Michael? Taj Brooks.
Oh, Taj time, right?
Taj time.
That's what we're supposed to say.
Yeah, Taj though has quite a few more carries, and he's already got 600 something yards. Why did I think about having this up beforehand?
Well, so just last week, Giddens, he had 16 attempts for 70 yards. He averaged 4.1 yards per carry, which is, pretty darn respectable. Trayshawn Ward came in. He had 9 carries for 59 yards, 6.6 yards per carry. Howard was really effective with his feet. 10 carries for 112 yards. Now, one of those carries was for 70. So that will bump up your average quite a bit. But even as a team, including sacks and including everything, last week they averaged 5.8 yards per carry, but Kleiman specifically mentioned that he was not very happy with running the ball and they need to be better.
Well, they had that you probably mentioned. I was looking down reading this stat line for Brooks that Howard had that like 70-yard run, so it may have been.
Yeah, it was 70. That definitely skews things, but
Brooks
he was not happy.
Brooks has 114 carries, which this is interesting to me. He has 114 carries this season for 688 yards. You know how many carries and yards he had last season total, Michael? 147 carries. So he's 33 carries shy of tying last year's total. 691 yards. He needs 3 more yards to pass last year's total. And even then, that was 4.7 yards per carry. Like, give Taj the ball. You are this year, and he's even better. 114 carries, 688 yards, 6.0 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns. The thing I saw that I really liked, Michael, Taj is averaging 7 yards per carry at home this season.
Oh, that's a cool stat.
5.5 on the road, but 7 at home. Even better.
I would like to give some credit to that offensive line, because I don't think we've done that very much on the 23 Personnel podcast, which we probably should, because pass protection has been an issue somewhat this year. We've acknowledged that. It seems like they've buttoned it up a little bit, but running the ball effectively can fix a lot of things. And so the fact that they're able to do that when Morton drops back to pass, he has time, because they're not necessarily expecting it, or they have to honor the run. They just have to be a little bit more proactive in their defensive scheme. They can't just count on doing it one way every time and having success. So this offensive line, yes, they've had some issues in pass protection particularly, but man, running the ball, there's no way Taj Brooks is running the ball this effectively, or Valdez, especially how he was able to run against Houston, if these guys aren't up there blocking their tails off, including the tight ends, whether it's Cup or Tharp out there.
Yeah. Sorry, this is supposed to be the Kansas State offense preview, and we got
Sorry,
sidetracked
we just
by
we got
Taj
excited about our
Brooks.
yeah. It's
We love him.
we
love
like
him.
running the ball. It's great.
The other Kansas State running back you should be aware of is the transfer Trayshawn Ward, 5'10", 195. He's got 45 carries on this season, so a little more than half of what Giddens has. 223 yards, 4.9 yards per carry, and added 2 more touchdowns. Through the air, Michael, they are limited.
Pretty good. But no, I think they're pretty good though. They pass it. I think they pass it almost more than Tech does. I know they average more yards per game, but I don't know if they have as many attempts per game.
You're right. I was looking at they don't have a guy, right? Their leading receiver has 276 yards on the season, which for 5 games is what, 60 something yards a game.
Yeah, they spread it around, but I mean, Brooks is. Everyone's going to make comparisons, so he's a Deuce Vaughn kind of guy.
Yeah, he's 5'8",
super fast.
And if it's not Brooks, it's their tight end Ben Sinnott, 6'4", 245. He's got 20 catches for 286, 3 touchdowns. So defensively, Texas Tech is allowing teams to throw for 244 yards per game, at 6.6 yards per attempt. Kansas State is throwing for 257 per game, 7.2 yards per attempt. Kansas State is rushing for 203 yards at 5.3 yards per carry. Texas Tech is allowing 126 per game at 3.5 yards a carry. Kansas State is, because they're good at early downs. They are really good at third down. They convert 51% of their third downs, whereas Texas Tech is allowing teams to convert 41. Their offense is putting up 36 points per game. Texas Tech is allowing 23. So you got to figure some things. We'll meet in the middle there. Hopefully, bring some of those Kansas State numbers down. Because your offense isn't putting up 34 points. Your offense is putting up 34 points per game, whereas theirs is putting up 36.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll need to bring their number down a little bit. But they're not very good on the road. Well, they are 70th best road team, so almost middle of the pack, whereas Texas Tech is the 31st best home team. So you would think that would play a factor a little bit. When Texas Tech has the ball, they have the 20th S&P Plus offense, where Kansas State has 17th, and the Kansas State defense is 37th. They are led in tackles by linebacker Austin Moore. Not that big of a guy, 6'1", 220. He's got only 30 total tackles, 19 solo, and a sack. Next up is a defensive back, Kobe Savage, 26 tackles. And because I like to point it out, behind them in terms of leaders for tackles, it's a safety, a corner who is likely out this week, another safety, and then their next linebacker is 6th total. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 2 linebackers, are 1st and 6th on the team in tackles. That's not great for them. It's even worse when you look at their defensive backs, especially corner depth. They are churning through corners like crazy because of health issues. Will Lee, it's one of their starters, is going to be out this week, likely.
Are you back?
I was gone for half a second.
Okay.
I was just talking about their corner depth. Anyways, so they've been playing and breaking in a bunch of new and young corners. They've had to move a safety over to corner. So we know, and we want Texas Tech to run the ball, but like if they're struggling covering guys, you may see some big plays. pop up through the air this week.
That's what I'm hoping, and I'm I'm struggling to see how this defense is only averaging 3 yards per carry, uh, defending the ball. I mean that's really a fantastic stat, but what I was able to see this week, I mean they were out of position quite a bit. Their linebackers would shoot the wrong gaps, and then the running back would sneak out on the outside and get a considerable gain. So I mean, maybe they're just like you said, they're shuffling some people around and kind of doing some things that they normally wouldn't do. But I think Tech's going to be able to run the ball on this team, despite this what looks like a really daunting, 3 yards per carry average that they're allowing.
Yeah, and maybe some of this has to do with Kansas State. They've racked up already 14 sacks on the season, so that's through 5 games. So it's just about 3 sacks per game. Their defensive ends are numbers 1 and 2 in terms of leaders there. Khalid Duke's got 4. Nate Matlack's got 3. So when you're sacking the quarterback a bunch, those are going to get tallied as a rush. And obviously those negative plays will help bring that number down, the rush per carry, yard per carry down. But you were saying, they're allowing teams only 93 rushing yards per game, 3 yards per carry. 259 through the air at 7.5 yards per attempt. They're pretty good on third down, 32%, and are giving up 21 points per game. Texas Tech throws for 220 a game at 6.3 yards per attempt. That's obviously trending down a little bit with Shuck's injury, with Morton's shoulder health, and with just Brooks absolutely beasting onto the scene. You've seen this number, the rush yards per game, shoot up. You're up to 179 per game now and 4.9 yards per carry. You're picking up 42% of your third downs, 71% of your fourth downs, putting up 34 points per game.
Yeah, and that 71% is really high. It's top 10 or 11 in the country. You're tied with Texas State, which is kind of interesting. You've had the same exact attempts and conversions on fourth down as Texas State, but a lot of the teams above Texas Tech have not attempted nearly the same amount of fourth downs. And so, I think Wyoming was at the very top, but they attempted like 3 or 4, whereas Tech's, I think, inching into 17 or 18 territory. So that 71% is crazy. That's fantastic, and hopefully that'll continue to stay there or even get better.
Yeah, I was going to go look up the fourth down stat. Well, when I got there, one of the first stats they're showing are the rushing yards, the rushing leaders across the country. Michael, Artaj Brooks is number 5 in the country for rush yards this season.
Oh my gosh, I haven't looked since I think it was right before the Houston game to kind of plea that we run the ball.
Yeah, he's 5th.
He was 11 then.
At 688. Amani Bailey at TCU is 4th at 690, so 2 yards ahead of him. Audric Estime from Notre Dame is 2 yards ahead of Bailey, so 4 yards ahead of Brooks at 692. There's a little bit of a gap. Jonathan Brooks at Texas, 726, and then the country's leader, Kamani Vidal at Troy, 835, which is just ridiculous.
That is. Halfway through the season, 835 rushing yards.
Yeah. Let me find fourth down conversion for the team. Look who's number 1, Wyoming. They've attempted 3, and they are 3 for 3. Army, they are 13 of 14. Penn State, 10 of 11. Yeah, there's a bunch of teams. Army's got 14. Ole Miss has 16. They're 12 of 16. They're at 13th. This is organized by percentage. There's Texas Tech. Tied for 23rd with Texas State. We're both 12 of 17 on the season. Boston College, 14 of 20. Right around it. But looks like 20 is a high watermark in terms of attempts and you're at 17th. So you've attempted twice as many. No, not twice as many. What am I saying? 3 fewer than the leader, Boston College, and they're converting 70% of their attempts too. So they're pretty good. If you looked at Stats of War and the CFB graphs preview, you'll see, as opposed to last week when Baylor had a lot of red, Kansas State's got a lot of blue and a lot of dark blue. The stats love them. Figuring to be a pretty close game. This model gives the Wildcats a 56.5% chance to win this one, with Texas Tech at 43.5%. But a very narrow margin. Kansas State scoring 32.7, Texas Tech scoring 30.2. So you look at the line right now, Texas Tech, at least last time I checked, was a 1.5 point favorite. So gear up for a close game. If Will Howard's going to throw it to you, you got to capitalize. You got to, if this is the game that you're going to out Kansas State somebody, it's got to be Kansas State. You got to out Kansas State. But that's been what you've been doing the past couple of weeks. You've been leaning on the run. You've been having success on early downs instead of short third downs. Throwing it when you need to, being sound defensively, being special on special teams. So, Michael, I think it'll be a close game. Over point total for this game is set at 56.5. That feels a little high for these two defenses.
Yes.
So I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to say something like 28-24. And I'll say whoever wins the turnover battle is who's going to end up. No, I'm gonna say 27-24. Maybe some field goals in this.
That's really close to what I had. I came up with kind of a weird score because I feel like this is going to be a weird game. So I've got Texas Tech winning 27-22.
Okay.
And just to be a little bit different, to not have the same point as you, I think I'm going to change that to 26.
That would be a weird score, 26-22.
26-22. I'm not even sure how that would happen. I think it's just going to be that close. There might be some 2-point attempts that don't make it. Being held to some field goals that you would rather have not been held to. But I really came in thinking I just couldn't pick Tech to lose 2 weeks in a row, because I picked them to lose in Baylor. And not only did they not lose
it from start to finish,
even when the scoreboard wasn't showing it at halftime, they absolutely dominated the game from the go. So I'm going to respect that and not be a pink raider and have the fan base on our side. They'll be in town. They'll be ready. They'll be rejuvenated because they got to see a sounding defeat against Houston. They got to see a Baylor team just get manhandled in Waco. And it's homecoming. It's going to be a great atmosphere. Let's go.
Homecoming.
Win, but yeah, I'm taking the under as well, because the under did hit last week despite Tech scoring the majority of the points. It's still, I think the total was 55 or something, or 54, and it was 53.
Like they knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Okay, since you brought up the point total, Texas Tech, I want to get your thoughts on that last possession Texas Tech had where they kneeled the ball down, victory formation inside the 10. Like, I was listening to the Gauchos, and I was really like, I got fired up listening to Kyle explain it, because when we had that big return right there after the last punt, and I was like, let's run it in here. Let's run up the score a little bit. I don't think Baylor intentionally tried to run it up last season, because some of those were pick sixes. And you legitimately just couldn't stop anything last year. So the opportunity presented itself. You could have done the same thing. But I like Kyle's perspective. Like, it may have been even more disrespectful with everybody in the stadium knowing that you could have ran Taj Brooks 3 or 4 more times and put up another touchdown, but more disrespectful with 2+ minutes left on the clock inside their own 10-yard line to victory formation, kneel the clock out.
Yeah, I could see where as soon as you started saying, I could see where that was headed, and I was like, yeah, that probably would, depending on how you look at it. I think that, yeah, the line ended at 59.5, and so they would have had to score a touchdown to hit the over. But I didn't have a problem with it. I mean, I feel like
No,
Tech proved that that was what a lot of folks were clamoring about and wanting to see is we need to see this team finish off somebody. We need to see this team have a cutthroat mentality and put their foot on their throats and whatever,
you did
other
all
phrases you can come up with. You did.
night.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, it didn't really look like it on the scoreboard until, fourth quarter, but it's absolutely what it was.
Yeah. So I'm not picking a winner. I think it'll come down to who plays more sound fundamental football and who takes care of the ball. I think it'll be a pretty close game, low scoring. You'll need things to go your way to win this one. I'm not trying to get out of that. Kansas State's a tough team. They're disciplined, even though they're struggling a little bit on defense. They've had some health issues. It's difficult to look at that team like, yeah, you're going to win this game.
Yeah. The team you saw playing Stillwater is probably not the team that's going to show up in Lubbock.
But I would love for that to happen.
Oh yeah, that'd be fine.
All right, let's do a quick whip around the Big 12. Somehow West Virginia is only a 3-point favorite coming into Houston this weekend. Another 6 p.m. game on FS1. Is that right? Both us and West Virginia on FS1 at 6 p.m.
Well, theirs is Thursday.
Thursday. Oh my gosh. If I had read the whole line, I would have seen that. Thursday night, 6 p.m. FS1. Both West Virginia and Houston were on byes this past week. West Virginia riding a 4-game win streak. I can count. Duquesne, Pitt, Tech, and TCU. Whereas Houston's been a little down. They are 2-3 with their victories over UTSA and Sam Houston. In a game that is growing interest-wise in my mind, Iowa State at Cincinnati.
Really?
Iowa State's figuring something out, man. I don't know what it is.
I know. That well, I started looking at the Big 12 standings because I was prepared to make fun of them and everything, but they are a 3-3 team who's 2-1 in conference play,
Just like Texas Tech.
just like our beloved Red Raiders.
And they got there by beating Oklahoma State. They got blown out in Norman, which tends to happen.
It happens.
And then they came home and defended home turf versus TCU. Now, they did it because Chandler Morris got hurt, and TCU had to drink a little bit of their own medicine there, taking out the opposing quarterback. But Cincinnati was off this past weekend. They are riding a 3-game losing streak. They lost in overtime to Miami of Ohio. Lost not as bad, but lost versus Oklahoma. And then a 1-touchdown loss in Provo at BYU. But Cincinnati here is the 5.5-point favorite.
I have no idea how this game's going to go, but I would absolutely take Iowa State plus 5.5.
Agreed.
Which sounds so bizarre.
Oh, I didn't pick the other one. Give me West Virginia -3.
I would, yeah.
Okay.
I'd take the Nears.
All right, BYU at TCU. TCU is home, 5.5-point favorite, 2:30 Saturday afternoon on the big ESPN. BYU was off this past weekend, but they only loss is that at Kansas. So they're 1-1 in Big 12 play. TCU, they are 3-3, but they are 0-2 in conference play. They lost to West Virginia and lost Iowa State,
Well, they
and
did
maybe
beat
without
Houston.
Chandler Morris. Oh, there's Houston. Yep, they're 1-2 in conference play. So, give me BYU to cover. I don't know if they're going to win, but give me BYU to cover this one.
I think so too. I think 2:30 in Fort Worth.
Be
It's
snooze
gonna
fest.
be pretty sparse. Pretty
Yeah.
sparse.
It'll be too hot, or the fair 45 miles away is in town or something, and they're going to complain about it. Which I'm not disparaging the state fair. It's fantastic. I wish I was going, but TC will find a way to complain about it. And then Kansas in Stillwater, 3.5 point favorite against the Pokes, 2:30 FS1 Saturday afternoon. I don't believe in Oklahoma State yet. I do believe in Kansas. Give me Kansas to win and to cover.
Yeah, I know that we've agreed on every pick, but I'm with you there.
They took it to UCF bad this past weekend. Kansas did 51-22.
Gosh. And yeah, we talked about that a little bit on the instant reaction, but just talk about dominating performance. That was maybe the most dominating of the week that I saw.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to running the ball. Just outrageous.
And then you got 4 teams off this weekend: Oklahoma, Texas, UCF, and Baylor. Texas Tech will get their bye week in 2 weeks to get you ready for that November 2nd Thursday night game versus TCU. Got to get through Kansas State and BYU first.
That is correct.
Alrighty, so I am still 3-3. I'm still magically, perfectly aligned with Texas Tech on our win records. Michael, you are 4-2. We both picked a win this past weekend. Preseason, I picked a win versus Kansas State. It's not impossible. Michael picked a loss.
Yeah, not great.
But we'll see how that all shakes out. If I were to win, I would pull even with Michael. We'd go 4-3. But if Michael wins, he takes a commanding 5-2 to a 3-4 lead.
But I don't want to win because that means Tech would have lost.
Yeah, that's okay. We both picked the loss against BYU next weekend, though.
Yeah.
We got to fix that one.
Ugh.
With the way that they played in Waco, I may be softening on how they play on the road.
Yeah,
But-
I am a little bit. I had to see it first, and I think we might have seen it. So
And hopefully, even though Baylor may be down this year, you can continue to build on that with a better BYU team. But we'll get to that next week. Obviously, we've got tonight's preview. We'll have instant reaction Saturday evening before we get to our BYU preview next week. Michael, basketball, Big 12, but not Big 12 basketball, college basketball, tipping off sooner than you think.
I know. I thought it was worth discussing because we're just going to look up and it's going to be late October. So, guys, get ready. I haven't seen televised details on the opener, but the opener is, of course, the Compete for Cause exhibition game in Denton on October 29th. That's a Sunday. Tech will play Texas A&M. So there will be basketball in October this year. I'm sure there will be some form of way to stream it, especially with, A&M's a decent-sized little team. So, interestingly enough, 3 of the first 4 games Tech plays will be against some form of a Texas A&M.
Yep.
So, after that October 29th Sunday, get ready. 3 home openers. Wednesday, November 8th versus Texas A&M Commerce. Sunday, the 12th versus San Jose State. And then Thursday, the 16th versus A&M Corpus Christi. So, you knock out 3 different A&M teams before traveling to the Battle for Atlantis, where you will play Villanova in game 1. But in the that bracket's just all over the place. But teams within the bracket at the tournament are Arkansas, Memphis, Michigan, North Carolina, Northern Iowa, and Stanford. So a pretty good group of teams there, and hopefully a little bit better trip than the Maui Invitational last year.
Yeah. So I know that first one is an exhibition game, but it strikes me strange, Michael, that 2 of these first 4 are on Sunday. The men typically don't play on Sundays. It's been it's been women, like the women's schedule is on Sundays.
I wonder if it has. I'm unsure if it's just maybe they think they'll get some more eyes since football is Tech's played football on Saturday. But yeah, it is kind of interesting. I mean, I feel like a Monday would be just as useful, especially in Lubbock. But maybe they think they'll have more folks show up on a Sunday in Denton to come see the Red Raiders, and they might.
Yeah, because if they played on the 11th, that is also the UCF football game. So I'm probably not going to get fans at both, and you don't want to split them. So,
Well,
I guess
and
I
I
can
think
understand it.
there are 2 games in the Compete for Cause Classic, so maybe that's part of the lure. Is you just kind of go there and watch 2 basketball games because North Texas and Sam Houston will be playing as well, and I'm not sure who plays first or what, but yeah, the main thing I just wanted everybody to know is, man, there will be Tech basketball this month,
Yep.
and if we don't start talking about it now, we're just going to look up and be eating Halloween candy and going, holy crap, was there a
We
game
got-
last night?
We got to
Was there
put
an
a
exhibition?
we got to start putting a preview together for Texas A&M Commerce because that is less than a month away. November 8th. Today's the 10th. October 10th, my favorite month. October. It's the best time of year, Michael.
It absolutely is.
So, all right, let's wrap this thing up with what do we learn? What do you say?
Okay.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
I don't know either, Michael. What did we learn?
I learned that life is always about the simple things. I'm a simple man. I have simple tastes. And recently, I had 2 of my favorite things: a Costco Kirkland's hot dog and fresh kettle corn out at the corn maze over at Addledew Farms, just east of Shallowater.
We're going to the corn maze
Still
tomorrow.
riding that high. We actually went on Sunday night because our little one didn't have school Monday,
Same.
Goals Day or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, man, it's going to be packed because there's probably a lot of families in the same boat. But surprisingly not.
All of
So-
Cooper ISD.
right. But surprisingly not. There was plenty of people there. It was a great amount of people, but it wasn't like going on a Saturday at 2:00 where it's just wild. But yeah, Sunday evening, that's kind of a pro tip. We may try to continue doing that from now on. But the kettle corn, man, I swear it's strategically done. It's just wafting
Mm-hmm.
kind of wherever you are, you smell it, and it's something my wife really loves, and so she was definitely going to get. We were going to get some no matter what. And I just stood around and just ate kettle corn for what felt like an hour before we left. It's wonderful. But yeah, the Costco hot dog, $1.50 hot dog, man. It's probably like the 5th time I've talked about it on this podcast. It's impossible to beat. You got the sesame seed bun. You get your condiments. They always have such a nice. They do such a nice job with the condiments there. They don't have the onions anymore, thanks to COVID. But that wasn't really a big deal to me. What do you put on your dog, Spencer?
Ketchup and mustard.
Ketchup and mustard.
Maybe if I'm feeling up to it, a little bit of dill relish.
I'm a mustard relish guy myself.
I like
If the
I like
relish is
the.
not there, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm okay without the relish. I could go back and forth whether or not it was just mustard or just ketchup. I like them both. I like them both separately. I like them together. So I'm not one that's gonna like load it up with, you know, Chicago style dog with all the kinds of stuff on it. But
Oh, I'll absolutely eat one of those, but I'm not gonna take the time to figure out what I want to put on one. Like if there's some crazy, like if I went to some place that had a bunch of crazy stuff, I think I would still do mustard and relish, or like chili and red onion or something like that, and probably mustard too, because mustard and chili,
mustard and chili goes really well together.
that goes pretty well together. Mustard and sloppy Joe goes well together, and my wife thinks that's weird, but I don't care.
Have I
Put
talked
mustard
about
and pickles on my sloppy joes, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Like I'm having a sloppy Joe.
I like to put pickles on my barbecue sandwiches, which I know it's not that strange, but it's pretty good. Because usually, if you're getting like
excellent.
if you're getting a barbecue sandwich, it's all the same texture. It's all pulled pork or chopped brisket. There's probably some sauce in there. The bun, it's all soft. You need a little bit of a crunch, a little bit of a bite, plus
Yeah.
anyways.
A little acidity.
Yeah.
It's good for you.
So our friend Scott at Bosco's Boys pointed one of their listeners our direction for some recommendations as he's coming into town for the game. Michael, I don't know if you've seen the tweet. I'm going to share it with you what I told him. Tell me where I went wrong, what you would have changed.
Okay.
So he said, what are some must-stop places in Lubbock? And I said, depends on how old you are and what kind of experience you're looking for. Because another tech podcast that was tagged said, pointed him to go to Chimmy's. I was like, that's fine if that's your crowd and your environment. But say if I were traveling to Manhattan, Chimmy's would not be the kind of environment I'd be looking for. So here's what I said. And some of them I was trying to keep stadium adjacent.
Mhm.
But I said Spanky's.
Okay.
Dirks. Caprock. Two Docks. West Table. Triple J. The wild card here, Kegel's, because it is an experience all on its own. It's way out there. So is Johnny Fabs. I don't know if you've been there yet.
I haven't been there yet.
And then I gave him a barbecue category, and I said, any of these three you can't miss. Evie Mae's, Regino, The Shack. Now, obviously, there are more barbecue options. There are more steakhouse options. There are more brewery options. But if you were to direct somebody for their first time coming into Lubbock, especially as an opposing fan, I wasn't going to say, like, you should go to Main Event. You should go to Top Golf. You should go to Four. No. Those aren't bad places. But, like, if you're coming in to experience Lubbock on game day, you should probably stay around the area, around the stadium. And there are Lubbock originals down there that I think would be a valuable experience.
I don't really see anywhere you quote unquote went wrong. I don't have the two that I would have been most, the two that first came into my head were Caprock and Two Dogs, and you covered that.
Would you have
So I feel like
included?
he's got a ton of options.
Oh yeah, for sure. Would you have included Brewery LBK?
Well, I found it weird that you specifically mentioned West Table but not Brewery LBK because they're in the same building.
Well, I'm not a brewery person. I couldn't tell you.
The other one that, of course, I haven't been there in forever, but where the old Garski's is.
Oh, Beer House.
Beer House. That was, I haven't been since it opened pretty much. And that's probably more for a younger, it probably skews younger than I am at least. But that's a pretty cool place. That's pretty close by. They've got some good outdoor stuff going. They might even have like a Oktoberfest thing this weekend. I'm not positive if they do or not, but I think there's some Oktoberfest stuff happening this weekend. So yeah, I mean, but you're absolutely right. Like Chimmy's and Beer House might be skewed more to younger than myself. Or younger at heart than myself. I've always been an old soul anyway.
Yeah.
But Two Docs Caprock, man, those are hard to those are hard to pass up. Spanky's is a staple. And I think you nailed it. You did a great
Well,
job.
Appreciate. I tried to include a brewer on there because I know, like, answering from the podcast account, like I should cover that because I know you're a brewery man, but I don't have the experience. I don't. That's not my crowd. But I had forgotten about Brewery LBK until I actually heard Scott answer it on his podcast when he said when he was here he went to Brewery LBK and he was actually comparing it to a brewery they have in Manhattan, but that one is a sponsor of his show. So he's like, well, it wasn't Manhattan Brew House, but
I've got one
Okay.
to add. Good Line.
all
Good
right.
Line might be pound for pound the best brewery. I feel like everything I've had from them has been consistently great. And there's been a few hit or misses at the other places. I'm not going to get into details. Doesn't matter. I'm still going to go there. I'm still going to go to all of them. But Good Line has just knocked it out of the park. And they are close to Capital Pizza, which is another good one to hit up. And Good Line usually has a food truck around. So that would be my other recommendation is if people are still listening, you might go to Good Line. You can hit up Capital Pizza. I think you can even order Capital Pizza while you're at Good Line, and they'll bring it to you. And there's almost always a good food truck there. And if it's Nirvana burger joint, you're going to have a really good burger and some fresh cut fries. Like as you order it, there's a guy back there with that hand machine slamming a potato into it and getting you your fresh cut fries right there.
It's awesome. I
Denver's
drove
finest
by
burger.
Chris Stocky's today. I was like, I want to go back.
I know.
So
I need to hit up Tom and Bingo's and go to their new menu. They've got that, they've kind of pared down their lunch menu or just their menu altogether. I need to go.
Yeah.
Show them some love.
all right. That'll do it for us in the 23 Personnel podcast. Predicting a close, tight game with the Wildcats this weekend. Should be a good one. Take care of the ball. Everybody stay healthy. And you could pull it out. Our Rangers on to the ALCS. So the celebration videos, tweets are chef kiss. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at PuntSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.